Bombay is full of hierarchies.
What are they called? Pads. Whatever. Paper pads.
So can I get a little sciencey for a bit?
Your brain is not your friend.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it seriously.
Hi, Dr. Azhar. Thank you so much for coming and speaking with me today on The Curious Case of. I get stuck at everybody's introduction because people are lots of things, not just one thing. But you're a physician, you're a psychologist, a coach, and you also have a personal experience living with addiction. Thank you for coming and being willing to share your story with us. And since you also have professional experience with counseling and psychology in general, it's obviously not possible to put your professional side completely away. But I was hoping to sort of start without the hindsight, what your journey was like, and just we'll take it from there, I guess. So just to set a little context, where are you from? What does your family look like? What was childhood like?
Childhood stuff. So first, thanks for having me. Pleasure to do this. I grew up in Mumbai. I grew up in Kolaba, what appeared to be a nice little family. Dad, mom, me, and my younger brother. I was also part of a very larger, well, it wasn't a joint family, but an extended family, right? My mom was one of, I think, 15 step cousins, and I had 15 first and second cousins. And we grew up in these two buildings next to each other, and we were constantly in and out of each other's home. I went to a small little school in Kolaba, and on the outside, you would not look at my life and think that there would be anything wrong that was going on. But there were a couple of things that were happening, right? So I grew up with, my father had a temper, right? And I remember always being afraid of what kind of mood he's going to be in. I also was the firstborn in this grandchild and cousin, and from a family full of high achievers, right? So my dad was this proverbial story who came from very humble, lower middle class sort of background and went to MIT in the 50s on a full scholarship. His two sisters were PhDs. My Nana came, again, those typical stories, right? He came from the village with that 5 rupiah in the pocket and then made this financial empire and then lost everything and then rebooted. And then by the time I was born, in 1966, he was living in Chennai with this big-ass house with 5 Mercedes Benzes. And I looked, and all the conversations at home used to be, oh, look at this guy, he's achieved this much, and look at this guy, he's doing so well in school. And I remember distinctly thinking, there is no way I'm going to measure up to this, right? That I'm going to be this huge disappointment and they're going to find out that I'm not as smart or not as whatever they had in their mind. And the great fear was if they found that out, they would not love me, right? So although I had all this abundance of love and support in my life, I never experienced feeling unconditionally loved. I always felt that I had to do something to live up and to, the expectations that people had of me. So I did superbly well in school. I was in the top 2 or 3. I was taking part in sports. I was in debates and elocutions and, all the extracurriculars and doing very well in all of them. But not because I had this great academic passion or passion for cricket or anything, right? I just thought that this was the way I was supposed to be. And by the time I was like 10 or 12 years old, right, I just started feeling that, okay, nobody should find out. There was a sense of inadequacy. I'd come to this point in which that I don't measure up. I don't feel good enough. And then I think by the time, so I finished school and I went to a small little school in Kolaba and then I went to Jai Hind College. And then I remember that's when the depression hit. Right? That there was a sense of, I didn't know it was depression, right? There had no language to understand that stuff. I mean, we're talking about 82, 83. So I'd get up with no drive, no desire to do anything. I'd wake up feeling like crap. No idea why I'm feeling like crap. Don't want to go to college. Then my mom and dad are giving me gyan about what is happening and you're slacking off and you're becoming lazy. And so then I would push myself out and go to college, but then I wouldn't attend classes and I would be sitting there and then I got some letter from the college about attendance, and then there was hell to pay at home, and all that stuff was going on. And I just I didn't understand what was wrong, right? I I'd lost interest in the stuff. The only thing that had any interest to me was music. And I'd sit with my Walkman and listen to music for hours, and that was the only thing that would give me peace. And then at that time, so I didn't know what I wanted to do with life. Right? No clue. My dad was an engineer. My grandfather was a businessman. So, you know how I decided to do medicine? So, of course, in the family, you had to do either doctor, engineer, lawyer, right? I mean, you can't be anything else. So I was terrible at math. I was terrible at physics. So I said, maybe I shouldn't try medicine. That was the extent of thinking that went into that. And the family is very happy. He's going to be a doctor. He's going to be a doctor. But the boy is not studying. He's not even going to class, leave alone studying. And I don't know what happened. Then 2 months before the board exam, I got into some panic thing. Then I started studying, and I got tremendous grades. I got into med school. So one fine day, I don't know what happened. We decided. One of my friends said, "Let's go and have a drink." So I said, "Okay." So I remember we parked on Worli Seaface. That was the thing, and we were sitting in the car and we were drinking Old Monk rum. And I remember the first time when that drink went down my head, my throat. I just felt, okay, I have found something which is going to be magical. And that's when the story started. But that was childhood in a nutshell, right? So if you looked from the outside in, there was nothing wrong. This guy had gone to a good school, he had great family, he had good friends, he went to a good college, he's now got into medicine. So you'd never look back on any of this and imagine that there could be anything wrong with this picture. But then things really...
Then they are.
Yeah. So that's childhood.
I wanted to be like same pinch cross at some point, but then I thought that would be inappropriate.
Yes.
But okay, and so then you had your first drink.
And so now I'm in med school, right? And now nobody can tell me anything. And that's when I then started experimenting with other substances. And for the first 3-5 years, there was no problem. In fact, I found out that I had a great capacity for booze. I could hold down a whole bunch of liquor. And I had no way of realizing that this would ever be a problem, right? I finished med school. Now, halfway through med school, I realized I don't want to be a doctor.
Okay.
So I went and told my parents, and of course, they are not hearing anything of it. So the bargain was you finish MBBS, and then whatever you want to do, you do. Now, unfortunately, I don't know how you look at it, I did very well in the final exam. So I could have any residency that I wanted. So then family pressure. So I took up a seat in orthopedic surgery.
Bone
Haddi.
surgery. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Right? And I was doing a residency. There was only one problem. You had to be at the operation theatre at 7 a.m. A slight problem, right? And so I would struggle, okay, those nights I can't party, I can't drink, and, this, that, and the other, and somehow I'd make it. And then several times I was drinking, so I couldn't make it to the operation theatre. Thank God I didn't go to the operation theatre under the influence. I would just not wake up and not go. And then somewhere in the first year, I realized, though I would never acknowledge this to myself, right? I realized I had a choice. Either I could continue with my lifestyle or I could continue with the orthopedic surgery. So I quit surgery. I just decided I'm quitting. And of course, I would tell anybody this is boring. I've told you all from the beginning. There was a lot of arrogance. It was all a defense. Right? All this is hindsight is 2020. At that time, I was like, I'm making the best decision of my life. This is very boring stuff. I'm meant for cooler stuff, and all of that. And so I quit, and the family is like aghast, horrified. But at that point, I was beyond caring. So this was 92, right? So I'm sitting wondering what I want to do. No idea what I want to do with my life. Who walks out of an orthopedic surgery without a bloody plan and just sits at home, laughs up that I'll figure out what I want to do with my life. So at one of these things, I was sitting and drinking, and I met this guy. And because of the liberalization, he had just got the license for distributing Warner Music in India. I am a huge music fan. So we started talking, we started drinking, and I think over 16 shots of tequila, he said, come join me. And I said, yes, okay. My family is now thinking this guy's lost the plot. Now he's he's doing marketing for some music company. But what happened was, for me, it was the dream job because I was this hotshot record label executive. I could get whatever music you want from whichever part of the world, way before it's onto these things, I could get that to you. So I had free access to all the clubs. And then I was hobnobbing at that time. All the TV channels that come to MTV and Star TV had all come for the first time to India. So I was in the thick of this, man. Right? So the 90s, from 92 to 96, are a complete blur. Right? That's when I discovered cocaine. Because now I was making money. Right? And that's when I discovered acid. So at that time, there would be all these rave parties that were happening at Marway. I was still functional, but I was getting more and more. So by that time now, I was using daily. Right? So in the first part, 92, 93, if I think back now, I was waiting till the evening. But I was waiting till the evening. Right? Before that, I was waiting for the weekends. And I would say, but everybody waits for the evening and everybody waits for the weekend. But I was waiting for only one reason. Right? And then it became the afternoon, maybe a joint, maybe a beer. Right? And it came to a point in which there was a time in my life that I'd get up in the morning, have a shot of vodka because I had to go to work. You see, vodka, I used to think that vodka doesn't smell. And smoke a joint, right? Roll another one and go to work. Have that joint at lunch with beer. And in the evening, I would be drinking whiskey and chopping lines of cocaine. This was a day in the life. Right? And it was crazy. For many years, I managed to function like this. And what I realized in retrospect, now most people who have an addiction issue are functional. Right? For a large period of their lives are functional. And I would tell, so by that time, a couple of my friends and my cousins were saying, dude, don't you think it's a bit much? Don't you think you want to look at it? And I'm saying I can control it. Right? And then I started realizing that people were noticing that I was getting a little too wasted at one of the parties. I was too out of it. And then I started getting a little self-conscious. Right? So then this idea came that I should control it. I don't want to act like a fool. I don't want to make an ass of myself. And, so I wasn't a belligerent, nasty drunk. I was just this fall down, embarrassing, you don't want to be around me, someone take him away kind of a thing. And then I started realizing that, okay, I need to count my drinks and I need to drink in control. And looking back now, I realized that yet another, who needs to exercise control? Right? Only a person who potentially feels there's a problem, right?
Yeah.
So when I was saying, but I'm controlling it, I didn't understand that the very fact that I have to exercise control is diagnostic of the problem.
That there's a need to control.
It's a need to control it, no? So for many years, I'm controlling it. I'm showing up to work, but I didn't understand that. Right? And then it came to a point when my boss said, look, you're very good at what you do, but there's no guarantee if you're going to show up at work and what time you're going to show up at work. So whatever is going on in your life, why don't you take a month off and figure it out? So this was a body blow, right? Because I was telling my parents all this time, what is your problem here? I'm functional, I'm making good money, this, that, and the other. Now what to do? So by that time, to my mom was beside herself by that time, good Muslim lady, and ye kahan se aa gaya? So she went and did her research and found out about this fellowship called Alcoholics Anonymous. So I started going to these meetings, and I was there for 1 month, right? And I heard all these sharings, and I heard things that what were going on in their life, and I heard some really stories. Somebody lost their job, somebody lost their house, somebody lost their liver, they're real tough cases. And in my mind, I compared. I said, that hasn't happened to me. That hasn't happened to me. Right? So instead of looking at the similarities and the patterns of the early stages of it, I was comparing myself to all these horror stories that you would hear. This is not me, boss. Right? So therefore, I don't have a problem. So then I went back to work.
Sorry, did your mom have to convince you a little?
Yeah, oh my
Go
God. Yeah,
to
yeah.
A?
I'm very glad you were. I didn't want to go. Right? I really did not want to go. And I realize now, right? That was the first stage in my journey, right? I don't have a problem. You guys are idiots. But since I don't have an option, I'll go. So the denial was built in, right? What happened after that was, or what started happening before that was the second phase that maybe I do have a little bit of a problem, but I don't need to stop. I just need to cut down. And I thought that this program would help me cut down, and they were all about abstinence. So I said, this is not for me. And then in the next year, I lost my job. I was very clever. I resigned before they could fire me. But if I'm honest, I lost my job. So I was sitting at home. Now there was no money, and now I was feeling the urges to drink, and there was no money to drink. So instead of drinking at fancy bars, I would go to now quarter system bars, just because I needed the booze, and then I couldn't do the cocaine, and unless some friends were out there, and I would go with them. But by now, my friends were also saying, if you call this guy, Baba, better not. Right? So I started feeling that pinch that people were sort of pulling back from me. And so then I came to that third phase that, okay, maybe I do need to quit, at least for a bit, but I don't need anybody's help. Right? And so I decided to quit, but it wasn't possible. I would go 3 days, I would go 5 days, and then I would make up. Right? Then I've been a good boy now, I can drink. In the middle of all of this, my granddad who lived in Chennai, he said, you send him there. Right? Let him come to me, I'll sort him out. Oh God. So there was one guy in my life who I really respected and looked up to was my grandfather. So I went to Chennai and then that time Madras, and he had a studio. He also worked in production. And so he gave me a little job over there, and for 2 weeks I didn't drink. I don't know the last time for 2 weeks that I was clean. And after that, promptly I went and drank, and he had nothing doing. He put me into rehab.
Okay.
And so there was a rehab called the TTK Foundation. And then I really had to think. I really had to think. This is 97 now. What do I want to do with my life? And by that time, I realized so that I don't have a problem. Had become then I need to moderate. Has gone. I need to quit. Had come, and now this had helped me quit. There was 12-step meetings in Chennai. I started going, and I stayed clean for 6-8 months. I was still working with my granddad, and then this offer came from Sony Music in Dubai. I'm like, okay. And I remember distinctly thinking, before I went to Dubai that, okay, now you have stopped drinking. Now your priority is not your sobriety. Now your priority is your career. I went to Dubai, and I think in 2 weeks I was drinking. And Dubai, I was too scared to do drugs. But what happened then with my drinking? Because by now, I knew I was an alcoholic, right? I knew I was an addict. I wasn't drinking every day because I knew I was a problem. I really did not want to drink now, right? But then I got into this binge pattern of drinking. So 1 week, 10 days, I wouldn't drink, just white knuckling it. And then when I would start Ira, it would be round the clock. Right? It would be these 3, 5, 7 days, morning to night. I'm sitting alone and just drinking. And I just could not stop. Right? And so that sense of being completely isolated, completely out of control, depressed and anxious, and just pouring booze over it. Those 2 years in Dubai, right, were hell. Because then after that, somehow, because after 3 or 5 days, when I physically couldn't drink anymore, right, I would sort of drag myself out and go back to work full of shame and guilt and remorse and fear and wondering who's thinking what and who's going to say what. Don't want to drink anymore. Okay, take it easy, da. And then 5 days later, I'm drinking. And it was just insane. And my family was here. At that time, no cell phones, right? So I would vanish for 5 days. So my mom and everybody here was completely fried because Dubai, you don't know what happens, man. They may lock you up and. See, there was an ego, right? I'm intelligent. I come from a good family, as to somehow that is supposed to give me immunity. I come from a good family, and I'm a doctor. So it was very difficult to go for help.
First, I can't even imagine what it would be like to sit for 5 days without meeting anyone at all.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, what thoughts were in your head? Did you have thoughts? If you're saying you woke up and you would drink all day and all evening and all night, at some point you'd fall asleep, I'm assuming, and then you wake up and then you continue drinking, and that would go on for 5 days. And you don't have a cell phone, so it's not like you're WhatsApping and chatting with people while you're doing that. You're not scrolling on Instagram or anything. So then, what are you
I'm so glad you asked
doing?
that. So the first thing is, I wasn't sleeping, I was passing out.
Okay.
Right? And then when the alcohol would wear off, right, I would wake up and reach for the bottle. The contents of my thoughts, so that's when the depression was full swing. There was nothing but a sense of shame, a sense of failure, and this constant self-flagellation, right? Going on, and what are you doing? What is wrong with you? And then put some TV on and try to distract from them. But attention span was short, right? And then you're wired. So every time the alcohol level is dipping, right, the agitation would start. So then I need to top up. And then the constant fear about what am I going to say at work, and somebody calls from work, what am I going to say, and how can I call in sick again, and all of that. And then who knows? And then there was the shame, and there was the shame towards next level. Then the guilt about what I'm putting my family through. But none of that would help. In fact, that would make me want to drink more. Right? And it was just this. So you're just sitting there. Now, I don't know if you can say thankfully, the alcohol would numb you, right, after a while. So it's only that when you pass out and then you resume drinking for the first 1.5 hours, this is going on, then it will numb you out. And that was what I was looking for at that time. Now, I was no longer looking for a high. I was looking for oblivion. I wanted to escape from these thoughts, right? And the booze would provide that, because then I would just drink myself to sleep. But then when your eyes open, you wake up with a panic, right? You wake up with just a start and, stuff like that. I remember I would go to the bathroom, look at myself in the mirror and say, what the hell are you doing? And take a sip and take a swig. There was no sip at that time. It was not a swig. It was terrible. It was 2 years of that hell. And that period of that isolation that you feel, right? That you feel completely alone. And that's why I tell a lot of people that recovery, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection. Right? And that's why having a bunch of people who get you. Right? So I always say, my family loved me. There's no doubt about that. I don't think my family got me. But to feel connected, I found that in a community of recovering people. I lost my job at Dubai. Again, I decided that I should leave. And they came to the airport to make sure I got onto the flight. I was escorted to the airport. And I came back here and I went back to rehab. And here's the thing, Ira. I came out of rehab in January of 2010 and I drank again. It just wouldn't stop. So by that time, I thought this is done. That's when really the suicidal ideation really came, because I thought this is hopeless. By that time, my family had understood, right? And they just laid off and said, okay. But I thought it was hopeless. This is never going to happen, right?
Sorry, when you say that they now understood, you mean that they understood that you had
This is the real thing.
Illness.
Yeah. So up till now, my mom got it way earlier than I got it. My dad, I don't know, till he passed away, I really understood that this is a medical condition. So my mom was going to a support group, right? So she had a lot of information over there. And my dad also by then understood that, okay, that this is a real thing. And they could see I was trying by that time. The first 2-3 years, there was a combat zone at home because I was very arrogant and belligerent and stuff like that. And my last drink was, so this was end of March 2000. And my cousin was going to have a baby, a second kid. And I'd been clean for 10 days or 12 days. and it was going to be a C-section, and we went to check her in one day before the procedure. And for some reason I said, I'll stay. Right? The procedure is going to be tomorrow or day after, so, I'll stay tonight. Because I really felt that I'd not been part of anything, yeah. And I remember that night when so my sister went to sleep and I started drinking in the hospital room. Right? And I passed out. And then my sister had a procedure in the morning and I couldn't wake up. So I wake up in the morning and she's not in the bed. And my aunt is there, and my aunt just looks at me, and there was nothing. I never forget that moment. I looked into her eyes, she looked into my eyes. It took me a little while to figure out what's going on, and then that shame, then that oh my God feeling came. And then I went home, and for 10 days I drank. Right, it was just like finished this, and then again I couldn't drink, and then I think something. So obviously I don't remember too much of those 10 days. It's quite a blur. But one of the things I do remember thinking is, I was thinking that why is this not working, that when you normally put your head to something with this level of desire and motivation, that it should be
work.
happening.
Yeah.
And then I realized that, okay, it's a mental disorder, right? And my brain is now addicted to alcohol. So if I rely on my judgment, right, sooner or later it will convince me that it's okay. Right? And whenever those periods that I would drink, right, all these episodes, it wasn't like I planned to drink for 5 days. Right? My brain would tell me that, okay, you're feeling stressed now, you're feeling anxious now, you're feeling bored now, or it's somebody's party, it's somebody's celebration. There will be 3 lies, just a little bit, nothing bad will happen, no one will find out. Right? And then I would start drinking and there was no braking mechanism. But something when that came and I said, okay, I'm going to need help. Right? And so then I went from, remember the first, I don't have a problem, you guys are idiots. Then maybe I have a problem, but I have to sort of moderate but not stop. And then maybe I have to stop, but I don't need anybody's help. The middle stage was I need help, but I'm not have to do everything that is recommended. And then the final stage was, okay, I'm done, man. I just cannot do this anymore. And that's when things changed. What I did was I started going to 12-step meetings. Right? And I found a bunch of people, the same people who had gone to 5 years ago, sort of idiots and were degenerates. And like, what are they going to teach me? I'm a doctor. And that's when things started changing. Right? So I had that support group. Then I went and saw a psychiatrist. I took some medication because my depression, by that time, when the debris settles down and you look at the wreckage over the last 3 years, you've destroyed 3 careers. I destroyed my medical career. I destroyed this other. There was no way I could go back to the music industry and stay. That was out of the picture. And I had nothing to show for it. I was 34 years old, no bank balance, no money. After living with my mom and dad all over again, and the depression hit. Right, like the sense of complete failure. So I got onto meds for around 6 months to a year. I think 6 or 9 months I was on meds. But then, I don't know, slowly over a period of time, right? So there was this 12-step meetings. There was a program of recovery. There were a bunch of people who had been there. And there was this round-the-clock support that I had. That really sort of helped, right? And then 1 year I was jobless, but I said I just don't want to pick up the substance, and then after that I decided. That's when it came to me, or what I want to do. Right, so I said, okay, I want to help people, so I want to get my master's. So everybody said you're 34 years, but I guess I have a stubborn streak, so I applied. So April last month was 25 years of sobriety.
Wow.
And I look at it and say, whoa, how did this happen, right?
Wow. Yeah, you're talking about it now, and I guess because it's been 25 years, you're able to talk about it in the way that you are. I've been through depression myself, and so when you're talking about some of these things, you're smiling, but inside me, I'm like, I mean, I don't know exactly, but
Yeah.
in some vein,
Yeah.
it's a just completely
It's very dark.
helpless and hopeless
It was
place
three
to
axes
be.
now. To me, it was three things, right? Beliefs about myself, I feel worthless. Beliefs about the support that I have or understanding that I have, and who can help me. That's the helpless, and then about the future, hopeless. Regarding the people, Lord ask me, right? So don't you ever get tempted to drink or get high? Yeah, once in a while I do, but it would be no different. So I'm 3 years ago I was diagnosed with diabetes, right? So do I get tempted to eat ice cream, cake, and chocolate? Sure, I do. Right, but I can sort of now say, okay, once in a while you're going to miss it, but that's okay. You're not entitled to have everything you want in life, man. So this is the other thing I tell a lot of people in recovery, right? And so where I miss it most is in holidays and celebrations, and I don't miss it now in the down times, right? I miss it in the holidays and celebration, but I'm able to talk myself out of it and say, look, this is like the Garden of Eden story here. God is saying you got everything. वो apple मत खाओ, बाकी सब है. But my bheja, क्यों? Why I want that apple? Right? So I've learned to say it's okay. It's a small thing. There are a lot of people who can't. I always go back to the diabetes example. There are a lot of people who can't eat some foods that they love, and I can't do alcohol. But that's far and in between, and I know what's going to happen. Right now, I don't kid myself. I said, okay, so I went for a friend's wedding, friend's daughter's wedding, right? One of those destination weddings in Europe, and so the whole school gang is there. Yeah. Everybody's getting shit-faced completely. And it wasn't that I missed the boost so much. I missed being part of all the craziness that went on, right? And I would tell myself, okay, these guys are going to get shit-faced. They'll be wrecked tomorrow, right? But from day after tomorrow, tomorrow they're not going to wake up wanting more booze. In fact, they're going to say, Baba, I don't want to look at booze for the next 3-5 days.
Yeah.
I will wake up in the morning and be looking around for where I can, where I can get the drink.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I've spoken to a few people about this, and one of the things that I've heard is that if you removed the substance, then what it's giving you a lot of times is this companionship and friendship and connection, or, some sort of numbness from pain.
Yeah.
And so if you remove the substance from it, what you're trying to get to is not bad.
Yeah. So you bring up a very good point. When I look back on it, alcohol wasn't the problem. Alcohol was the solution to a problem I had not even articulated, let alone defined. Right? So this whole journey of recovery and wellness, okay, is actually, you have to redesign a lot of your life. Right? And you got to really challenge a lot of assumptions that you made about yourself, right? So for me, the alcohol was a solution to my feelings of inadequacy.
So I guess it's one of the things that I'm hearing is that, like in your story, you talked about various episodes. So you went to rehab multiple times and then started drinking again multiple times. And maybe, because you said it's also about connection. So maybe it's about the first time when you did try and get sober. Maybe once you hit that 1 month mark, you didn't necessarily get the support at that time that you needed, but also, the psychoeducation. Because all smart people now, a little bit arrogant.
Yeah. Goes with the territory. Yeah.
Like, I mean, when you said that I didn't study at all, and then 2 months before my exam, I studied and I got great marks, then you're like, I don't have to try very hard.
Exactly.
I can figure it out.
Yeah.
Other people maybe need help, but I can figure it out. So I guess if, and also, you keep hearing that doctors are the worst patients.
Absolutely, very true.
Because it's so easy to rationalize and intellectualize when you have those faculties. And then it's so easy to convince you're too smart for your own good.
Exactly.
So you can convince yourself of all of these things.
Yeah.
And if you try and have a conversation with someone, you will actually outsmart them to the point where they believe you that you will stop and that you will be fine. So I guess, some amount of that with maybe not enough of educated support during that first attempt at getting sober would be a really important part, because I know that this happens with depression. You get tired of failing.
Yeah, you get sick and tired of feeling sick and tired.
Yeah, and like I've tried to get better. It didn't work.
Yeah.
And just the exhaustion
of having to get up and try again.
is which means that the longer I have to stay in this relapse cycle of trying and failing, it just makes it harder to
it really does
get better. And I mean, I think I say this to a lot of people, and this is something that bugs me a lot, is that, okay, fine. The first time you only ask for help when shit hits the fan, right? Like things have to blow out of proportion really badly. You'll ask for help. And for 1 week, everyone will give you lots of attention and support, and they'll be there for you, and they'll check in on you, and you'll be good, and you'll try. And then you're like, I'm a little better now. Okay. And then it all stops. And then if you keep going through that cycle, it gets harder and harder to convince yourself to try, because then you're like, it's hopeless. I've tried and it's not getting better. So from what you're saying is that you do get moments of respite on the journey of getting sober. And maybe it's important to catch on to those moments where you're like, okay, I'm feeling clear again. This is where my psychosocial support should come in. And
actually, a little deeper than that, right? So what I identify so much with that feeling of despair, right? I'm just sick and tired of trying to reboot all over again, and is it even really worth it, kind of a thing, right? But you brought up a very important thing about psychoed and psychosocial support. That's the critical piece. See, so whether you go to a rehab, whether you do psychodynamic therapy, whether you do CBT, whether you do whatever model of care you want, right? Even if you want to do holistic traditional medicines, right? So if you're going to a center like a rehab, or you're going to an Ayurvedic retreat, that's 30 days, right? Recovery starts after that. If you're doing sessions even weekly, life happens between sessions.
Yeah.
Barabar, so you need a recovery plan.
Yeah.
Right? Which has to have what I call the 4 ACEs. A for activities, C for company, E for exercise, and S for spirituality. Right? And so you got to design a plan that works for you. Right? And so in early recovery, if you have this, so it can't be packed like an army schedule. Right? Neither can you have these yawning chasms of time in which you got nothing to do and be alone with your brain, because in early recovery, that is not a good space to be.
Your brain is not your friend.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it seriously. Right? So the whole idea of developing a recovery plan, right, is that you have to understand, so you don't have to wake up at the crack of dawn, right? But whenever you do wake up, right, some kind of see, if you look at any culture for the last 5,000, 7,000 years, they've all emphasized morning time. Right? Now, you want to do bhajans, you want to do prayer, you want to do exercise, you want to do yoga, you want to listen to music, completely up to you. Because the energy and the mood you wake up with is what you're going to carry through the day, unless you have a reset. Right? So I encourage people to explore. You may have something, if you're lucky, from day one, which you always clicked for you and you can jump into, or you might have to try different. Right? So that becomes very important. Then what's my structure in the day? If you're fortunate enough to have work which is not toxic, then you're lucky. Right? Then you have work which is toxic, and then you don't have work. Then how do you fill that time? So that's the idea that you think of activities that you can do. Right? And there's a bunch of stuff that you can do. The people, who are the people, is very important to identify. And you don't need 30 people. But you need 3 or 5 people who get it, who you can call and say, I can feel
And you
this.
can't have one person.
You cannot have one
You
person.
just cannot have one person.
Because people are human, they'll fail you here
Yeah.
at some point or the other.
They'll get tired.
They get tired and they're not there. And so I always tell you need 3, 5 people. And that is in general for life.
Yeah. Something that I just wanted to go back to, because it really struck me when you were talking about it, is that time period when you were saying, I don't have a problem, to maybe I do have a problem. It sounds like you made a lot of calculations in your head so that people wouldn't find out.
Yeah.
Or, because just
Absolutely.
from the way you were talking about it, it sounded like you're making a lot of like, should I drink vodka? Should I drink whiskey
Yeah.
because of XYZ reason?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm assuming there's a lot of effort and
Energy
that is going into thinking about the most minute details of this habit or this activity that you're doing in your
Absolutely.
day.
It's a full-time job. So you're planning how to do it and what to do without the consequences. Should I have wine here or should I have beer here? And okay, lunch we're going there, but this place doesn't have booze. I like that. All of that. Then you're trying to figure out the money if you're not in good situations. Then you're spending copious times doing the substance, and then you're spending copious times recovering from it. Yeah, but that calculation, absolutely. Yeah. So this situation, okay, this time was bad. Now I know they're going to start. They called people at 9 o'clock. I'm going to have to start drinking before 9 o'clock. I'm not going to be able to wait till 9. But then I can't get too loaded. So let me just start with a beer, and then let me go there, and then let me count my drinks, and let me pace my drinks and all. It's a full-time job, man.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's just mentally exhausting apart from.
Yeah, but that's the insane. Most people will say it's not worth it. No, my friend, no, figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Can you tell us a little bit about what were you like when you were sober?
Like before I ever got drinking, I was shy. Yeah.
While you were in your
The recovery,
or
Yeah, I guess
maybe
you'll have-
even if you hadn't started your recovery, what were you like when you were sober?
like in the drinking days when I was not drinking. Oh, I was a mess. I was jittery. I was nervous. I was edgy all the time. Right? I mean, most people would say that you're looking tense. You're looking very stressed. I was very, very stressed all the time because I was expending a lot of energy, like fighting the urge to drink.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the other thing that happens in recovery, right? The urge goes. You just don't think about it. So when people told me you're going to be fine, I could believe that maybe because I've seen other people now do it, I can come to a point that I can stay sober. But the idea that I won't miss it, I thought these guys are just,
Saying things.
Yeah, just saying things to me because they're nice people and they want to make me feel good. And it was just last week I was talking to this buddy of mine in recovery. And we were just sitting and talking and said, I don't really, if you ask me now, do I miss the fact that I can't get high? I said, no, maybe once in a year on a particular occasion, I'll say, it would have been fun. But I don't miss it. I don't miss it. And I think a lot of that has got to do with, I think I've built the life that I like. Right? And I think I've done a lot of work along the years in me being okay with me. Yeah. Now, this is me. There are 3 or 4 things I do well. There's a whole bunch of stuff I'm mediocre at, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that I suck at.
Math.
And right? And that is me now. This is dost banna hai to dost bano, nahi banna hai to I wish you well. Right? But I've become kind of okay with who I am. And I think that I never was. Right? I always thought I had to be some other version of myself. I think it was like, okay, I like me now. Then the rest. So I always believe this, man. If a person has meaningful connections and work that is fulfilling and meaningful, and a modicum of health to enjoy it, you're blessed.
Yeah.
But then I always had this voice that said, no, but you can do this better, and that you should do this way, and why you're doing like this inner critic in my head. That he's gone to sleep. He wakes up now once in a while. I tell him, "Beto, coffee pio, tang mat karo."
Yeah. I've often spoken to my therapist about it, and she said, you don't have to make that voice go away.
Yeah.
You just have to make that voice a little bit kinder. So just my last question, I guess, would be, you mentioned that your family loved you, but they didn't necessarily get you. What do you think would have made you feel understood, or what could have someone said or done, or what way could they have listened or been there for you that maybe would have made you feel like?
So that's a great question, and so I think at different stages of my life, it would have been different things. And before I say any of this, I want to say that I'm not complaining at my family. They did the best they could, right? So this is not.
Yes.
They. I think when I was like under 10, 12 years of age at that time, I think it's something as easy as, it's okay, beta, ye baar marks nahi mile to it's okay. You know, anything that would have, I guess they were coming from, okay, if we set the standards, that will really help him perform. And they did not know the kind of stuff that was doing to me in my head. And at some point, if somebody had said, it's okay, Baba, if you didn't get this, it's fine. Who says you have to be good at everything? I think for me to hear that at that time would have gone a long way. The other thing the not comparing, right? There were so many comparisons about, look at this person, all held up as good, all well intentioned, held up as good role models, and supposedly to inspire me. It did exactly the opposite to me, right? And so, I guess nobody really told me it's okay to be you. Right, I think the message that I got. But obviously nobody's going to sell that to a 13-year-old. But the manner in you can communicate that sentiment.
I think actually it's the opposite, right? Because a lot of these things that you've talked about may be specific to you.
Yeah.
But if everybody understood that, however you say it, whatever you say, the idea to convey to a child or anybody is that it's okay to be you.
Yeah.
Whether in your case, it was letting you know that it's okay to not be great at academics.
Yeah.
But in someone else's case, it might be something else.
It might be something else.
But the idea to convey is that it's okay to be whoever you are.
I think what would have been really helpful was if somebody asked me, how was your day, rather than how are your grades? Something from that area.
Yeah. And what about during your recovery period?
So not only during my recovery period, even when the addiction got really bad, right? So I understand the turmoil that I was causing and the embarrassment that I was causing. My mom got it. My mom got it and said that you're not a bad person. You just need help. You're struggling with something that you need some help with. Aside from her, there was a lot of shaming. It was like, how could we? The tone in which I was spoken to, right? And I can get why they must have got frustrated and all, but it wasn't helpful, right? I didn't feel encouraged or supported. I felt like judged and chastised, right? Which I was doing to myself anyway. So it's not that I needed an extra layer of it. In recovery, I got a lot of what I needed, right? I got the space to say that you take your time. I mean, for my dad to say you take your time to figure out what you want to do was like, I would never have thought possible, right? There was this, I kept hearing that, okay, so you had lapses, that we forgive you was a lot if you're thinking that we are still angry at you, right? I think that was very helpful. Then with my cousins, right? I mean, everybody just came and was around me, right? So that kind of stuff was very, very helpful, because I know a lot of people in which the relationships with their families get so affected because of their addiction that they get clean and there's nobody around them, right? And that can be really painful, man.
Yeah. I guess to always remember, I can't remember what it's called now. Post-op care. But like in
Absolutely.
regular words, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm out of the hospital, but that doesn't mean you forget about it
me,
now. I'm sober now. Now I need attention.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm really blessed. I had a lot of help along. I would not be here without. I got a lot of help along the way, man. And people would just show up and say, okay, I think people were genuinely happy that okay, he's at least off the stuff. I mean, there were, of course, some people who I didn't see it that way, and that's fine. But for the most part, I got a lot of support.
Yeah, I think through all the episodes, something that keeps coming up is communication and just connection.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Very
sharing your
welcome.
story. And, like I said, it's sometimes much easier to talk about it in hindsight. But, I mean, I hope that you were not too troubled while sharing your story, because also I know that sometimes it takes you back to when you were not feeling so good. And I'm so glad that you have now, accepted yourself and know that you are funny and witty and smart and kind and all of those things. And whatever you are is all that you need to be.
It's so true. We have to keep reminding ourselves of that, right?
Yes. Just get tattooed on everybody's forehead.
I know.
I really think it's very important, and it's just the understanding, right? If we had the understanding, so much would be different, and not just the medical biological understanding, but the feeling understanding. And I'm so glad that you're, better. I don't even know whether that's the right way to call it.
Yeah.
I guess if it's an illness, then
I'm better.
you're better now. And so, I'm really glad. At the end of every episode, we do a little thing where at Agatsu, one of our propositions through the world is emotional hygiene. Something like what you said about setting a routine or just having a plan. Right? And that plan doesn't need to be like an army regiment. But it's a plan that works for you. So one of the aspects of that is to focus on the little things. I think gratitude is a part of the 12-step program as well.
Yeah.
But sometimes I struggle with gratitude as a word. And so the idea is that being stuck in traffic gave you 5 points of irritation, and you took those 5 points of irritation and you spent attention on that. Can you also spend attention on the good thing that happened or the okay thing that happened? You never celebrate not being stuck in traffic. You only complain about being stuck in traffic. So I'm going to give you, I have these notepads.
Okay.
There's, what are they called? Pads, whatever, paper pads. And we have to write one thing that happened only today, this morning to now. That was okay. Just not good. That's it.
Okay.
Secretly remove my sketch pens.
Okay.
Mine is bagels and eggs, and I met a friend who I haven't seen in a very long time, so I was very happy to see his face.
Okay, so since you said bagel and eggs, I had keema pao and a curry from...
I'm jealous.
Yeah, that was like not healthy, but so sinfully pleasurable. And then I forgot it was Mother's Day, but I spent 30 minutes with my mom, which I don't really get to do. No traffic from Kulaba to Khar, and realized that Mumbai on Sunday mornings can be really pleasure when it's a clear day.
Yeah. We still get Sunday mornings if we wake up and use them.
Yeah. You need to leave the house for that. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching The Curious Case Off with me. In the description below, there will be links, further reading, summaries, guidelines, resources, everything that we could find and put together that we think you might find helpful. Just to reiterate that everything that is said in the episode as well as in the resources below should not be used to self-diagnose. If you have any questions or queries, please reach out to a mental health professional who is qualified. And if you like the episode, then like, share and subscribe to Agatsu Foundation, our YouTube channel. And if you want to know anything more about the organization, then you can find out at www.agatsufoundation.org.